Hello everyone, welcome to the Redmen TV. It is the final word show. Liverpool beat Bournemouth by 3-0. I'm joined by Chris Pajak, by Steve Hutt and by Ben Kelly for this one. Fantastic, Chris. Another wonderfully rotated side from Jurgen Klopp and another wonderful victory.
Another rotated side. It didn't look like a rotated side or didn't play like a rotated side, did they? They just cracked on. Was it the easiest win of the season? It felt like the easiest away win of the season, certainly. Like, no stress, no strain, we didn't concede. Kind of forgotten what it was like, to be honest with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the one that you may or may not be, because I can't think of any other away game than the Sheffield United one that me and Ben went to, which was horrendously stressful because of the way that obviously panned out. But Ben, I think that's dead right. It was a very pleasant afternoon of football.
Yeah, I never wanted to say it before the game, but we traditionally now, other than that year, we were 3-1 up and lost the game. Yeah, we actually play quite well against Bournemouth and do quite well against them. And I don't know whether it's the way they set up in the sense of they fancy playing a little bit more football normally, and they come out and have a go. But I for the first time in this period of games where I've been Saturday 3 o'clock, found a pretty much flawless stream, so I was able to watch the game and actually take in what was going on. And it did feel, before we scored, got to about 20 minutes in, and I just knew we were going to win. It was, even though it was still 0-0, we'd rocked up, we'd had a lot of the ball, and Bournemouth just didn't fancy it. And whether or not that was just down to how we were controlling the ball, and the way that, particularly the midfield, I felt, was able to dominate the game. It felt inevitable that we were going to go.
It didn't feel like we were playing Bournemouth either, really, did it? And we didn't because of their injuries. I think they had something like 8 injuries going into the game, and they couldn't have Harry Wilson, and then they end up with another 2 injuries during the game. They've basically got a full side out, and they've got more injuries than anybody. It was interesting hearing Eddie Howe talk after the game, being like, I really don't want to talk about injuries. I don't like making it an excuse, but like we're now at the point where
we're bringing Dan Gosling on.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. I didn't know he was still a footballer.
I love that. I genuinely love that. That Dan Gosling, they've got the biggest injury crisis in the Premier League, and yet Dan Gosling's still on the bench. It's still a wonderful world to live in. But yeah, Steve, it was. I think all those factors considered, it was just. It became me and Chris watched it, and it's very rare that we get to do that kind of thing. Like, but it became one of those games that you're just having a chat by the time the last half an hour of the game rolls around.
Yeah, it was straightforward. Like I say, thinking back of away games this year, I mean, Burnley was pretty straightforward in the end, but that got started by a bit of a jammy goal, if nothing else. The trend deflected across, whatever. This was just as routine and straightforward, and I feel sorry for Bournemouth, and no team in the league can cope with 8 injuries. Man City and Liverpool got the best squads in the league, and they wouldn't cope with 8 injuries. You would be. Listen, we'd probably still win a few games, but we wouldn't. We would be in serious trouble. They got no chance, and I did feel like but to be fair, they had a go. It wasn't like they wanted to just see what they could get out the game. But I think as soon as Nathan Ake went off with the hamstring, you could see like the manager's face, and it just deflated everyone. It sounded like, again, from
the goal comes straight after.
Yeah, it just deflated. It was like a double whammy of like, there's our best defender gone off. We're already in trouble. Liverpool are playing well, and it kind of took any sting out the game. So I think Liverpool and the manager deserve huge credit in that. Probably the best 2 performances of the season have come in with 2 heavily rotated squads. And that's the main benefit of it. Main plus.
Well, this is the point, Steve, where we should be starting to struggle a bit. Yeah. We should be having to grind games now. We've been grinding games for a month, City notwithstanding, and this is the point where we're supposed to sweat and we're supposed to be really struggling with it. And you're right, they are probably, in terms of like the attacking, the way that the front 3 is clicked in both. It was interesting. I saw, looking back through your agenda for the Merseyside derby final work, Chris, and is that the best performance of the front 3, or etc. 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 That's what we've got going for us in this week. I mean, look, we've just played two of the worst sides in the league, to be fair, but we've struggled against worse teams at times during the season.
It's when you make a lot of changes. So was it 7 changes? I think it was, or something. We always spoke about rhythm and clicking and all that kind of stuff. And the front 3 aren't all playing because there's someone else has dropped out and Oxlade playing there and stuff. But from the first second, it was brilliant, and that's what I say about the manager and the staff and the players. They have credit in that. it didn't look like Liverpool had made, you make changes sometimes and you end up with like a League Cup performance where you can just tell lads aren't used to being Keita's hardly played with Salah, for example, this season. They've hardly been on the pitch together, and yet they're in and they're together, and it's a great partnership. Whether that, again, they are supremely talented footballers, but I think a lot goes into it's more than that, isn't it? There's obviously work done on the training pitch and stuff, and like Ben says, it was one of those games where after you see out 10 minutes away from home, and sometimes you're thinking, oh, I don't know about this one. Palace, like you mentioned before, or Sheffield United. This was the exact opposite. It was Liverpool are going to win, and it was a case of how many, rather than when it was going to happen.
I thought it was fascinating. I went back and watched. I was just bored last night, so I went back and watched Match of the Day from midweek again, just to cheer myself up because it was great. And they went big on the analysis, Chris, about Mane's the main man now for Liverpool. He's the one everything goes to. He's their best player. He's the top goal scorer, blah, 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 blah. And we just rested him. And Mo Salah goes and puts in a performance like that. It shows you that, and I was trying to word it right on Twitter, and I think I spewed it in the end, but like, we went into the season, everyone went, Firmino's Liverpool's main man. He makes everything tick. And then it's become Mane's the main man. And then Mo Salah can put in performances like that. It's possible that we don't really have a main man as such. We've just got, to use Steve's words, a supremely talented bunch of lads.
Yeah, it's probably right, isn't it? I think, it's no coincidence to me that Mane is the one that plays on his own.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like Firmino and Salah equal Mane at the moment for me. And that's mad to think, isn't it? I'd be a little bit surprised if Salah was playing on his own with two other lads, because I'm not sure that does work, and that tells you everything you need to know about the form that Mane's been in this season. It was on commentary, Mane's potentially the player of the year so far in the Premier League, and he's put in that good a performance, but we see Chamberlain come into the front three and he looked really good, and he doesn't normally look really good when he's on the wing. He just looks like a square peg in a round hole normally, and yet maybe with that little bit of time, and maybe the fact that the front three changed midweek and the weekend, that they've probably had a little bit of time to train. I don't know how they do that, because I know that, maybe Firmino comes on in the derby and stuff like that, but it felt like there was rhythm to it. Like they'd had a week where they knew it was coming up.
Well, we were talking about this on the news show on Friday, weren't we? About how Klopp kind of referenced it, that there's the lads that hadn't played on the derby trained on Monday, basically, or hadn't played a lot, so they were getting an extra training session, and whether that was done like specifically toward this game, but the more he picks an A side and a B side, the more you're likely to have, the more time you're going to have to train these lads, and you're dead right. So effectively, we've changed the entire front three. There's every chance that front three, they've said all week, this is what you work, this is what we want from you, this is what you work on. Chamberlain's been playing from the left all week in training to prepare him for this kind of situation, and this is the point in it, is that I don't think it looked like we missed a step at all. But the Mo Salah thing, we'll talk about the rest in a minute. 63 goals in 100 games now, puts him joint fourth on that list, behind Shearer, behind Van Nistelrooy and Aguero, and joint with Torres. I mean, we said it before, I'll say it again, he's a winger. It's a standard, and bear in mind, of course, that I don't even think he's been that good this season. No,
and that includes games with Chelsea where he was pathetic as well, doesn't it? At the start of this 100 games. Yeah. So he's probably done it in about 80 actual games, you know what I mean? And I don't know where Shearer stands on that list, because I don't remember him being particularly amazing at Southampton, and whether that, we were talking about this at the weekend, whether that was before the Premier League started, and that's why it's irrelevant. 63 goals in 100 games, absolutely outstanding, and puts him in, the upper echelons of world-class strikers who've played in this league.
The interesting follow-on was that he's third on the list for goals and assists. He's got 86 in 100 behind Shearer at 100, which is just unbelievable, and Cantona apparently on 88.
I just didn't think Cantona would be the high.
Yeah.
Didn't think he'd be the high.
Spent 3 seasons just kicking the ball towards Mark Hughes et al. Yeah.
Just give it to Andy Cole.
Yeah. It's good to see, isn't it, Ben, because
he was brilliant in this game, Mo. Yeah. He was absolutely superb, wasn't he? From the first back heel that he tried to bring Ox in, to the one where he, sort of caps that goal for Naby Keita with the little back heel and stuff, and it's exactly what you want to see from Mo. And I was a little bit surprised he didn't celebrate as much on his goal. Like it was a little bit routine from him. I don't know whether I'm reading too much into him. He doesn't look happy. Looks like the weight of the world's on his shoulders, but certainly played happy.
It was the most probably not quite the right word, but like magnanimous performance he's put in a while. You know, I think he's been so. I mean, I said it after one of the Champions League games that I felt he's a bit of a full stop. He's either a full stop or an exclamation point on a sentence. He's very rarely a comma. He did get an assist in that game, so it wasn't quite right, but. It felt like he was prepared to set others up first in this game rather than look for his goal and trust that his goal would come, and it did. It was just reward for the effort he put in.
Yeah, I don't know whether, did Chris say, he doesn't look too happy. I don't know, he's probably just, you're right, he hasn't had a great season so far, so he's probably frustrated with himself more than anything else because of the injury problems and that he's had and how that's affected his performances, and maybe today, maybe on Saturday rather, not having Mane on the pitch who is playing so well, maybe that helps him come out of his shell a little bit more at the moment. That's what he needs. He needs to be the guy that we're not relying on, but he needs to be the guy that perhaps we're looking to for a little bit of inspiration, because when Mane is on the pitch and he is doing that, then that can make a difference, and Mo then sometimes, I think, without Sadio, feels the responsibility to go and do that, and that helps him put in a performance
There's
such
probably
as that.
a degree to it. By 3-0, it's not, it's that kind of game. It's routine, isn't it? At that point, it's probably not the time to be knee sliding in the corner and diving into the crowd and all that. For him, he's probably just annoyed that he's not scored more goals up to that point or whatever. I think you can look at it from a number of ways.
I don't think it's an issue at all, really. Is it? Like say, maybe he was a bit pissed off that he didn't play in the derby. Like, you don't know. There's a lot going on with Mo. I think he's quite a complicated character. He's got a lot of pressures on him externally as well. He's Liverpool's, main man. He's kind of, I agree with what you said before, because Mane being the main fella in that, but it's phenomenal. Like, he's now level with Fernando Torres on Liverpool goals. He's one behind Luis Suarez. And if you think of those two players, they had teams built around them. Like, the whole function of the two Liverpool teams was for those. Salah isn't playing number 9 for a start. He's playing on the right wing. Yeah. And he's putting goals up, like numbers up, like the best Liverpool strikers of eras have put up. It's quite remarkable, actually. Like, he's almost become a little bit underappreciated now in terms of, not within the Liverpool fan base, but the wider football community. He's almost like, we're kind of forgetting Mo Salah a little bit. And then you look at the stats and you think, they're like Shearer, Thierry Henry, the best of the best, and he's matching those numbers all the time. And he has been dealing with this ankle, we know that, ever since Chowdhury did him in that Leicester game, and he has been in and out of the team and stuff. So it's no surprise that he hasn't been, fit and firing. But having a week off, not having to use him against Everton was a bonus. He gets the full week of recovery, and you're starting to see, he looks fit, he looks stronger. Like, he's back to. I remember the Napoli game when there's like a 50-50 and he kind of jumped out the way of it, and I thought, he's protecting his ankle. In this one, there was none of that.
Well, there's probably a degree to which what we've done with this, Chris, is we've gone, right, Mo, and whether this is a motivational tool, like it's in a bit of fear, put a bit of fear and God into him or whatever to some extent, it's like, we don't need you anymore. Like the whole thing doesn't stand up or fall down on you anymore, for better or for worse. So, if you're not right, don't worry about it. Don't feel like you need to be the guy who does all the business anymore, because we can take it out. We've got other guys waiting. But on the flip of that, mate, there's other lads who can come in and do your job at the same time. So it takes the pressure off, takes one type of pressure off him, I think, but it takes the pressure to be the be all and end all off him, but puts a nice competitive pressure on him to make sure that when he does play, that he's the best he can
Yeah, I find it so difficult evaluating Mo, to be honest, because there's times during games where I just think he's a bit lethargic, he's not going in, and I'm a bit disappointed with him. And then he'll do something like what he did at the weekend, and you're like, how can you be disappointed with that? Yeah. I mean, some of the best strikers in world football are not involved in games, Aguero being one of them, and then comes up with something, and he's lauded as one of the best strikers in the world.
Look at Jamie Vardy's first goal at the weekend. He's just stand there, run. Someone plays the ball through to him, and obviously after they've gone around the goalkeeper and all that kind of stuff, he slots it. Like that's probably Mo wants to be a bit more involved, but I actually thought he was. That was the thing. It was the fluidity for me, Steve, in how the front four basically ended up playing in that game. There's times where Ox is central, there's times when Salah's central, there's times when Keita's very right up against the front of them and their back four. It makes the whole thing tick. It's no longer because I think Mo Salah's played very wide for us at times this season. He's just a stretcher or whatever, and he hasn't been as involved in what's been going on, whereas he got to be in the thick of it, and I thought he thrived for it.
Yeah, and I think Salah always looks better when we've got the extra attacking option. You know, when you play with a more working one like midfield, and you, like you say, you're asking him to stretch the pitch and do more. He can almost become a little bit isolated. He's easier for teams to pick up, and that he's over there, and you can kind of contain him when he gets it. But when we start playing an extra attacker, so Keita's in there, and he can start interchanging it, and then he's in the box more. You know, he's around the edge of the box. He was playing 1-2s. Obviously, we'll come to the Keita goal later. That's when he's at his most dangerous. I think in that although he's like phenomenally quick, for me his best asset is his close control. In that he shows the ball and then he's gone, and he's so strong. It's ridiculous for a little fella. I think that's when he looks his best, and I think he can do more of that when we play that extra man, whether it's Keita or Chamberlain or Shaqiri. I always think Salah looks a bit more comfortable. I think it takes away from Firmino's game in that you lessen the impact of Firmino, because you've kind of got Keita being where Firmino wants to be, or whoever. But I think it's amazing for Salah. I think he thrives on these little interchanges and stuff like that. And I don't think you can underestimate as well. Sometimes players just like playing at certain teams and certain grounds, and he scores against Bournemouth all the time. Yeah. You know, he scored a hat-trick there last year. I think he scored more against them than any team now, I think. You know, we laud like Divock Origi's got that with Diev, and it looks like now Mo Salah is just Bournemouth are going to be his team that he just picks on. Yeah. And fair play, you know, for your boots, get those goals when you can. If you're gonna get, they all count the same, don't you? Get them.
100%. I want to talk about Naby Keita, Ben, because I think of those midfield options we've got, he was the last one waiting to impress. You know, Lallana's come in and done brilliantly. Oxlade-Chamberlain's done brilliantly. Obviously, Shaqiri more forward, like, but you know, he's come in and took his chance in the derby. And Keita's the remaining one, and it's mad because Keita could actually be the best of the lot. Yeah. Hasn't been just yet. That was the performance that we bought Naby Keita for. He was involved in everything. He was winning the ball back. He was pressing. He's supporting the front foot. He's playing through balls. He's dribbling through guys. He's getting into the box.
The through balls were the ones that caught my attention the most, just because there's been so many cases in so many performances for Keita where they just haven't quite come off, and they've been cut out, or they've been overhit, or he's just taken too long to play it, and therefore the picture's changed and it's not quite the right ball anymore. All this, but like obviously particularly the one for Salah's goal where he plays it through, it's weighted so perfectly for him, and it just, they're passes that we know he's capable of, but the passes that you like tell the person what to do next, and that is exactly what we've been waiting for from Keita. And we've had so many discussions about this heavy run of games coming and how really this is a key period now for Keita in terms of his Liverpool career and potentially what could be coming next for him. And we needed him to step up in at least some of these games to win us points and put good performances in it. And it was a really good example.
Klopp laid the baton down at the midweek, when he talked about it, and the way he talked about the derby, and the way you can hear the players talk about the derby, like Shaqiri talking about like we've been put in this special game, that kind of stuff. He said to them, right lads, this is the time now. Thank you for waiting so patiently. Thank you for putting all your dedication in and training, for keeping everyone who's been on the pitch honest. Now it's your turn. It's your time to shine. I'm going to give you these games now to go and make yourself an option. Everyone's taking it, and as I say, there would have been a degree to which, I mean, I don't think Naby Keita would have thought it, but I think amongst us as fans, Keita's been getting stick this season for not being able to get on the pitch and produce it. But he goes on, and the way he handled himself, you would never have guessed that he's had an issue. But you would never have guessed that he's not playing.
But it's like Klopp talking about him after the game, isn't it? And saying how he wanted to play him, but he wasn't brave enough to make that 7th or 6th substitution or whatever it was for Keita. So you kind of knew he was there, and he's been performing and training. And, after beating Everton 5-2, for the manager to come out and talk about a player who's not played must have really given him a boost of confidence, especially going into the Bournemouth game. For me, that ball for Salah that you were talking about, Ben, it's so easy to get wrong in that even if you weight it right, it's so easy to curl it too far. Yeah. But he didn't curl the ball. It was an amazing pass.
Any more weight on that, and he's just too far wide to take the shot.
It's absolutely superb. But for me, it's It's how he wins the ball back. I mean, you know, he wins the ball back for that goal, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And he makes it look like a really poor ball by the centre half. He's just cut the passing lane out. Yeah. It's going to the midfielder, and he's just come off his man and intercepted it. And he does that quite often. And I think sometimes as a fan, it's easy to watch it and go, "Oh, he's picked up a really easy ball there." No, he's made it look
straight to him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's a reason that none of our other players get interceptions like that, because they don't play the same way as him.
Yeah. I think all those players you mentioned, Naby Keita is the most talented footballer. You know, of your Lallanas and your Shaqiris and probably Oxlade-Chamberlain, he's probably a better, technically all-round better footballer. And if you watch the Leipzig stuff, he was fantastic, and that's why everyone couldn't wait. I found it bizarre a little bit that he's been lauded by our fans, and he hasn't really done anything.
Yeah.
He's had the odd good performance here and there, but he's never had a stretch where you will get players who, again, aren't as talented but have had bigger impacts on the side.
Well, he's got a song. Like, and he doesn't deserve
it's
a
like
song.
It's like when we give Aquilani a banner and he hasn't played it. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. Naby Keita is a brilliant footballer. If you probably put Liverpool's most talented 11 players down on paper, he will be in there, because I think he's amazing. But he hasn't done that. He's had glimpses here and there, like Porto, he played well and stuff, but then he's gone away, he's been a bit quiet, he's got injured, he's been something else. Naby Keita, he's a £50 million midfielder. He should be in the Liverpool team every single week. Yeah. And if he plays like he did against Bournemouth, he'll force himself in. He should be like Mane, Salah, Firmino, in that he should just be nailed on. Yeah. There shouldn't be no doubt like Fabinho's done. You just play. Yeah. When you're fit, you are in our team. Yeah. And he's never quite, for whatever reason, been able to do it. Again, I think more of it is fitness reasons. Like he's always been injured or coming back from something. If he now hits form, that just takes Liverpool from a team where we mentioned the workman-like midfield, which we do have at times, to it takes you to a whole other level where you can go against, you know, the bottom 15 teams in the league and just unleash an actual front four and just say, I mean, by all means, if you want to deal with these three, you know, three of the best players in the world, fine, and we're going to throw in our superstar midfielder. I think it's just, if Liverpool can get him fit and firing, it just takes you from, and how good are we? We're amazing now, and that just shows we can get even better, and we're doing this without probably our best number 6.
It just changes
There's so much to go.
It changes the way we our options for how we attack. Yeah. And there's one other option I'll talk about in a second. But look at his goal, Chris. The way Trent is actually an underrated pass by Trent.
Trent was amazing.
Brilliant. But he turns and he runs into a space where there's 3 men around him, and he doesn't panic, he doesn't bat an eyelid, because he's got this style we talk about all the time, this like staccato style of running with the ball. Mane's a bit the same actually, that he's got a range of acceleration. It's like having a trigger button on your pad compared to pressing the X to accelerate. Anyone old enough to remember the PS2 era? And he walks into that space of the pitch, and he allows us to play good football in tighter areas, basically.
He does, and he plays with his head up. Like, he dribbles with his head up, which is fucking bizarre. Like, he's got so much trust that he knows where the ball is, that he's just walking around looking like that, and he's like, he sees everything in front of him, so when people close him down, he's already seen where the pass is. Whereas most people, I have to look at the ball all the time. I've got no idea what's going on in front of me. You know, but that's what Naby does, and it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. But what formation did we play? And I get, you know, was it 4-3-3? Was it 4-2-3-1? If you look at WeScout, Y-Scout and all that, it says 4-3-3. I look at the average positions, I'm saying Keita played the 10. Yeah, he did definitely. But he has the ability to be able to do both in that system, because there's times where we were playing 4-3-3 and he was on the right-hand side. And I'm not sure, although Wijnaldum's good when he moves forward, I'm not sure he can play it in the same way as Keita, and Henderson can't play it in the same way. Ox maybe is the closest that we've got, but he gave us options. He was just in space. That's what his job was. Find space, find the ball, get the ball, try and get a goal.
When Liverpool don't play particularly well, you hear pundits, again, someone like a Jamie Carragher, for example, will say sometimes, the one thing Liverpool sometimes lack at times is that creative spark in midfield. Because again, you talk Fabinho, Henderson, Wijnaldum.
Well, it's been the most consistent shout.
Milner, Chamberlain. They're not
creative. Not a creative number 10 has been the most consistent shout.
We never replaced Coutinho.
Exactly. 2 years. We've had this for 2 years.
It's him. Like that's what he is. I find it staggering that he can take people on without not looking at the ball. Yeah. That is just like, I know that sounds really simple, I mean, it's amazing. His head is on a swivel, and it's no surprise why he can pick those passes out, those through balls, those slide rule passes that Ben spoke about. Is that it's because his head's here and he can see it all.
You're not missing that fractional moment of a decision point because you've just having to look down and check where you.
It was the most encouraging performance he's had by far, and like I say, this is the Naby Keita everyone was so excited buying. Like, even like as that he's wearing the white kit and playing 1-2 on the edge of the box. It was like watching YouTube 3 summers ago when we thought we were going to buy him, because that's what he does. Yeah. He, again, I keep going back, harking back to it. That was the most exciting thing about the performance. A relatively straightforward 3-0 win at Bournemouth that you're not going to write home about. It was that he looked that good, where you just want to see more. You want him to play again and again, and can you keep doing it?
Well, that's the fun thing, because we've just been extolling Mo Salah's virtues, but we know what his virtues are. There's no more new virtues to extol for him. Whereas we see it in bits of Keita, and like there's probably people going like, we should be enthusing this much about these lads. It's just, look, and I'm sure doubtless we're just waiting on the breaking news for him to be injured, because that's been the tale of his Liverpool career so far. So it has to be a big caveat that if, provided he doesn't get injured, I think everything that's been said is right. He's such a good footballer, and you don't have to watch a lot of football to know a player when you see one, and he just is.
If he can stay fit, there's not only a lot of games coming out, but there's potentially a favourable run of games as well for him to play himself into form. I think that's what you were alluding to before. There's never been a period of games where he's kept himself fit for a sustained period of time to play himself into form properly. It's a bit like Dejan Lovren in that sense, because there was that stat that came out that Lovren
7 games
can never get to 7 games in a row, or whatever. Case is the same in the sense of, if he can just play. So obviously we've got Watford next week. We've got Leicester's a big one coming up, but after that you've got like Wolves and Sheffield United. They're games that will suit him because they're teams that will come a bit like Bournemouth and not completely play 10 at the back, and they're really difficult to break down. Particularly like Wolves and Sheffield United, they'll come and have a go at you a bit, and they're the type of games that will suit him.
Well, Sheffield United in particular, because again we mentioned at the top, that game we needed Keita was exactly what we needed in that game at Bramall Lane. We needed a lad in the middle of the park who was prepared to drive forward with the ball, take him. And Oxlade-Chamberlain can do that as well, of course. But boss, all of a sudden, we sit here and be upset that we've got 2 lads now who can do that, when a year ago the biggest criticism of Liverpool's midfield was we had no one capable of doing that.
Even Salzburg tomorrow night, obviously we're going to do the build-up show, but that's potentially a game that's going to be a bit mad, and it's going to be a bit end-to-end. That suits Keita. Throw him in there, and he's got the energy to press forward and play balls like that. If he can start getting it right on a more consistent basis, we're going to score loads more goals.
I think it helps, doesn't it, Paul, when you've got a midfielder who can take people on. I know it sounds, again, it's a really stupid point, but sometimes, or a simple point, is that it doesn't always have to go sideways to Mane, or to Firmino's feet. It's like Keita, and again, that's probably why you don't see the best of Firmino with Keita sometimes, is that Keita can just go, I can just do that myself. I don't need to pass into you there, and I can kind of just run there myself. And again, I almost fell for Bournemouth that they were in disarray, they were injured and stuff, and then they've got to deal with this fella. I mean, what they would like Liverpool to have Henderson, Wijnaldum, Milner, and then we're just popping it wide to Salah, and we're popping it to Chamberlain.
He plays a lot of the same balls as Henderson and Wijnaldum when he's playing the 8. It's just he gives himself the option of doing something else first, because as you say, he'll run into that space where 3 men, something doesn't open up, he'll just play the ball that Hendo would have played by standing still anyway.
Exactly, he just changes the field. He changes what's available to him by shifting his position. Wijnaldum does this as well, actually, and that's why, like we talk about, like in the 6, Wijnaldum was mad watching him in there, because like he would carry himself. He didn't have the range of pass to Jordan Henderson, but he'd just carry the ball 10 yards and then play the pass instead, and wait for it to open that way. And that's right. That's the difference with Keita. I thought Jordan Henderson stayed because he. I thought he absolutely ran the show. This is a lad who, when we found out Fabinho was going to be missing, a lot of people, looked up at the heavens and probably muttered a few quiet prayers and all this kind of stuff. It's helped up. I think kind of Ben said before, it's helped the quality of opposition that we've had to play against. But where's Jordan Henderson's passing YouTube compilation? Because he's
YouTube,
but it's not. This is the point. Is that it's the stuff he's been producing this season in terms of creating chances and all that for a crab. He doesn't half play the ball forward a lot into dangerous areas of the pitch.
Yes, it's not bad, is he? I thought he was brilliant. Again, I think we do have to caveat who we were playing and what state they were in. But
but regardless of who you're playing, and
that's it's
the ball for Oxlade-Chamberlain. It doesn't. It's not. Oxlade-Chamberlain can't score that unless that ball is played exactly like that. And
again, we have one in the derby where he slides. Same
Mane
should be scored off them. So he's certainly doing that more. I think Liverpool as a whole are a bit more direct.
Yeah.
Because why wouldn't you be? Would you get it up to those lads? The fucking boss. Yeah. So I think sometimes I would criticise Henderson that it would always be a bit. You mentioned Crab, but he would take the safe option a lot. It would go back to Van Dijk, or it would go 5 yards sideways to Wijnaldum. I was like, you didn't really need to do that. That's just keeping the ball moving for whatever sake. But if he started to go more direct all season, I think he loves that one where the first time clip to the back post.
Yeah.
Unless you get some of it wrong sometimes, but then when it works, it's almost unstoppable. He's another one you mentioned before about competition for places and stuff. Like Liverpool's captain probably doesn't get in Liverpool's best 11 at the minute. Mm-hmm. If you had everyone fit and firing, there's a good argument that he doesn't play. So that's huge motivation for him. You mentioned these big games coming out that Ben was speaking about. Henderson wants to play. The last thing he wanted was not to be playing in the derby.
But this is the point about the players that we bring in. He's gone back into that 6 role, but he's been watching Fabinho play that for a year now, and he's seen the things that he's added to the role. And when someone else has done it before, it affords you to be braver in what you do. And he's trying stuff now, Chris. Not saying he didn't try it before.
No, I fully agree. It was, I wanted to make the point myself is that when you can be a better player for watching someone else do something and just doing what they do. Fabinho loves that ball over the tops of the strikers. He tries it 3 times every single game. Yeah. Henderson goes back there with a different side to what we were when he was playing the 6 before Fabinho, and he's seen the advantage of when you can do this and picking your moment. And I believe, I was watching it on the telly, but maybe Tom could shake his head or let us know, but that ball to Ox was on 3 times, I believe, before Henderson played the ball. Something you don't see on the television because we're not shown that, but when you're in the ground you see it, and he's taken the opportunity and he hit the ball perfectly. And he was a better 8 for playing the 6, and now he's a better 6 for playing the 8. Yeah. And seeing Fabinho. Yeah. And you can become a better player and the team's better, and you've got more options around you. I thought it was an outstanding performance by Henderson. We shouldn't have been too worried about Fabinho being injured. Big loss, of course, but the lads who put us in the position that we're in, who started this streak of games, are all still fit.
I think Fabinho, you'll miss Fabinho more in a bit. The fixture list has been. You never want someone to get injured. If he was going to get injured, getting injured after we played those games wasn't the worst, because the team they've all, relatively speaking, up against teams that we should not need them against. Like Leicester on Boxing Day, you might need them and you might miss them there. Mm-hmm. But you can kind of. I always think with Henderson playing the 6 is that I don't think you can ever really question his footballing ability. It's his decision making and whether he's defensively as good as you want him to be. But you're not really going to get... Bournemouth aren't going to test you down there. If Bournemouth are going to test you, they're going to probably try and test you down the flanks, or they're going to try and test you with the ball round the corner for Callum Wilson. So I think it was a perfect game for Henderson. It was set up for him to do well, but then he starts to go and do it. And listen, we mentioned before, we never thought that it was in doubt, but we hadn't scored. It wasn't like we were creating like chance after chance after chance. It was like we were playing well.
But that's the good thing you mentioned about being a bit more direct, and that's why I think we've been, particularly these last 2 games, Ben. We've been a bit engaged at times. It's just like we've added a new dimension, and it's not it's fundamental. Kick the ball long and have the fast lads run onto it, kind of thing.
We've been doing all season when we need to. We did it against Burnley without long ball, Burnley. You know what I mean? It feels like Liverpool now are at that level where, like, a UFC fighter will go and train with a Muay Thai artist one fight, and then he'll train with a boxer another fight, because he's looking at their opponent and they're trying to work out what's the chink in your armour. And because we're good at everything, we can just showcase everything that we can do. So long ball against Bournemouth was perfect. Sometimes it's possession, sometimes it's counter-attack against Manchester City. Players however you want. We'll find the way to win.
That was what I was so encouraged, is that in that game Bournemouth tried both. So they tried the high line and got absolutely done by it, like made the show of. So then they did kind of sit back, and then we kind of just ran.
Keita
Keita just does that little 1-2 and Salah back heels it through.
And if nothing's working, we're just going to score from corners, lads.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
sound. You know what I mean?
It's the levels of understanding, I think, and again, that it's Henderson to Oxlade-Chamberlain's no accident. You know, there's clearly an understanding between those players, and you can see it in the way they react to these kind of things. And that's just one of the things as well. It shouldn't be underestimated. Klopp said it's going to take 10, 12 odd games for us to find our level. Now we're past that point now, and all of a sudden Liverpool look like they're starting to kick into gear. That's one of the things that we've got there. It's easier to be brave for the deeper players when they've got a greater knowledge of who's going to be where on the pitch, and that's
yeah, and it's that understanding that separates long passes from a long ball game. You know, a long ball game is you hoof it up and you're hoping for Andy Carroll to flick it on to Luis Suarez, who might put it in. But these are specified, putting the ball onto somebody's toe long passes rather than, you know, it's like you've got like playing quarterbacks, like playing NFL, and you've got specific routes the players are running, and that's the type of passes that you play, and it's not. And as you say, that does come from an understanding of what everybody else is doing and where everybody else is going, and it's underappreciated, I think.
I want to talk about the other thing that Jordan Henderson contributed to the game, and it was Dejan going off injured and Henderson passing the ball to him 50 times just to
make sure. Before he goes. You sure you're all right? Yeah, have it again.
You're going off, lad. Go on off one of there. But genuinely, there was no...
But the problem is, for anyone looking into his stats, he'll have racked up 30 back passes there. So when you're looking at his stats, not only you're not noticing that he's just fucking sold Lovren down the river, but he's doing himself no favours with the stats, boys.
Yeah. But his pass completion rate's gone up.
Oh, mate,
maybe he thought Joe Gomez is going to carry this a bit too much for me. He probably doesn't need me here, so I'm just going to get a few quick ones.
Poor fucking days, I know he's like that. Come on, I'm going off injured. Yeah, I'll have it back.
It did seem to take ages to get him off the pitch, though, didn't it?
Oh, he was injured almost as long as Ake.
Honestly, he was injured
which
forever.
Which was my other favourite moment of the game, by the way.
Oh, when Ake was like a lift on one leg.
just go down, lad. Go down, will you, mate?
Very brave of you, but go down. Yeah,
Mo Salah in the end, that does me favour. It was weird. It just seemed to get ages. Like, I think afterwards Klopp said he's not that injured. It was just like he felt a little bit
cramp or
bit
something.
Cramp,
was, Tom? Was he on the floor when we scored? Apparently, is that right? And he was
on the floor with Ake.
When Ake was injured,
he fell to the floor, didn't he?
It was like he had cramp. Hopefully, it's not serious. We don't know, but it just seemed like Trent was there forever, just like trying to get on the pitch. It was like someone just kick it out. Not to him, like that's the last thing we want to do.
How injured are you, Dejan? Go on, you make the decision. I'm not.
Well, I can't kick it further than this back to you, so stop fucking passing at me.
That's it. Nobody's willing to have a misplaced pass on their stats. So if Dejan wants to go off, Dejan has to decide to go off by kicking the ball out of play. Yeah, it was great.
Give it to Alisson for a touch. He hadn't done it. Probably for a reason.
Their goal absolutely killed it. Ben, great to see Curtis Jones get his Premier League debut.
Yeah, defo. I mean, I came on and I went, oh, and then I went, actually, this makes sense because we're very, very comfortable and it seems like the right time to bring him on. It's funny because, like, obviously, like the first season I was here, 17-18, following Curtis Jones all the way through Gerrard's youth side. He goes up to the 23s and all that, and he's got a few appearances for the first team here and there. You know, it is good, and I think it just goes to show that, you know, if you do work hard and you are talented, there are going to be opportunities for you in this side, and that's the key thing, because we've talked about the likes of like Harry Wilson and other loanees and youth players who the problem with getting into this side has been that we're just really good. Yeah. And in any other period of Liverpool history, the likes of Harry Wilson's probably in this squad right now. Yeah. You know, if you think about particularly, you know, earlier on in this decade, the Roy Hodgson and Kenny Dalglish side.
Jay Spearham was getting a game at centre.
Jordan Rossiter and, you know, players like this. But right now, for these young lads coming through, it's just bad luck in the sense of it's so difficult, but Curtis Jones is still making himself an opportunity, and that's the key thing.
There's a degree to which some of this is obviously just based on who we've got fit and available to us, so him and Harvey Elliott making the bench. But there's another degree to which we've got that Villa game coming up, and I think, and potentially even the FA Cup, we don't know how Klopp's going to treat that one against the Evan January, but it establishes Curtis Jones as a senior footballer for Liverpool, is what it does. It gives him a nice little boost going into this period, because we might well see more of him. You know, you could find that he plays a game between now and Man United or whatever, something like. Is it Man United in the new year?
Yes, yeah.
You know,
Spurs away as well.
Yeah, you might find he gets some more time on the pitch.
You wouldn't be absolutely pulling your hair out if Curtis Jones plays against Watford at home. No. You'd be like, oh yeah, fine.
Because he wasn't invisible either. You know, he comes on, he has a few. He scored. He has a few good touches. He plays a few good passes. It was actually the game had gone quite stale, And he was actually a bit of fresh air, and you know, I think Klopp would have looked at it and been quite impressed.
And you know, the 5-5 against Arsenal, he comes on, doesn't he, and does really well. And I was thinking, there's the seniority of young players. Like, obviously we don't count Trent as a young player anymore, so we take him to one side. And there's always if there's a couple of injuries, who's next? And it looked to me like maybe Harvey Elliott had kind of took that role. And again, I know they play in different positions, but you could feasibly have one of them on the bench, and it looked like who would he go for? He might pick Elliott. So I think it was significant that he puts Jones on
and
ahead.
in midfield as well.
Yeah, and he plays one. And to be fair to Curtis Jones, like, if it's your debut and it's 3-0, go, fill your boots. Yeah. You know, here's your chance, mate, go and have a go. And he did. The volley, he's unlucky not to do better with that. And like what you said, Ben, was that, and what you mentioned before, Paul, is that it become one of those games where you're kind of doing other things around it. Like you were having a chat. I was in the kitchen, I was prepping my tea. I was like I was chopping onions at the time, crying my eyes out while I'm watching this match.
It's a generational team.
Curtis Jones has come on.
But 11 points clear. Who's a happy tears?
Claire walking, he's getting beat. No, I'm just chopping these. And I was. But it was one of those games where it kind of piqued your interest because it was almost fizzling out a little bit. I was like, oh, all right, yeah, let's have a little watch of Curtis. And you know what he does? He looks like he's trained with Liverpool for ages. Because I know he has been, but he does the right things. He's in the areas where you would expect the player playing that position should be. Yeah. He should be where the volley is. That's his place. And again, it sounds really simple, but that must be hard because we are, like Ben says, we're at a level where we are so good. Like, we are probably the best team in the world at the moment. I don't think that's an exaggeration to say. For him to just come in and fit in seamlessly shows how good he is. And like you said, you know, with all due respect, I'm not going to name names. It's probably unfair to slag them off, but other young players have played more than Keita Jones at Liverpool over the last decade who are nowhere near as good. He looks like a lad who could go out on loan and play Premier League footy every single week. Yeah. And that might be what's in his future next year as we look more towards his development. But I like the Scouse chip on your shoulder kind of thing. He's got he's got a bit of swagger about him. Yeah. Like, I think, and I know you've met him in interviews before, he comes across like a nice lad, but you can tell he's got a little bit of I think he knows.
It's two pre-seasons since we asked him in the States, like, how's it going? He went, it's going to plan. Like, get in the Liverpool team, be one of the best players in pre-season, that kind of stuff. You know, it was never like I'm just hoping to take my chance, and if I get lucky, he's like, nah, my plan was to play in these games in pre-season. And
do you remember that Steve Gerrard interview he does was it on BT when he said, like, what it was like coming through as a young player? And I think Gerrard mentioned, like, you've got to be relentless. There's got to be a shirt there, and you've got to take that person's shirt, and you get it, and it's yours, and in training every day you do it. Jones comes across like he's got a little bit of that attitude. Like you said, I remember we spoke off air about it, like, you can tell he's not just there to be happy to not to play. Yeah. He's there because he wants, you know, he'd have been devastated not to start that Arsenal game. Yeah. And maybe good motivational tool from Klopp or whatever, but he looks like he's saying.
Did you see that clip of him for the unders the other week where he takes the penalty? And he basically tells Harvey Elliott to shut up. And he's got, again, this is the thing, he's got something about him. That Harvey Elliott kid's clearly got. He's clearly got it.
I think that Harvey Elliott's probably got a higher ceiling than Curtis Jones, but Curtis Jones looks like, as Steve said, he knows what is required of a Liverpool player.
Yeah, I completely agree on that. Clean sheet at last, and we're going to be top at Christmas again. We know that's not necessarily the boss omen that it should be, but I thought it was interesting. It just came off my Facebook, put it out on Twitter. But you know, a year ago today, after 16 play, we were top of the league on 42 points, so we're 4 points better off this time around. Man City were in second on 41. Chelsea third on 34. And that's, you know, today we sit on 46 points less than second on 38. These are the differences. You know, the 8-point gap between us and second is not insurmountable, but and obviously the 14-point gap to Manchester City is...
How many points to City again, Paul?
14.
Say it one more time.
14.
Is right.
Yeah, I know. It's got to be said. Yeah, it's mad. And look, Ben, there's a lot of people who are desperate. I think some people are desperate to get carried away with it. I don't think
I'm one of them. Yeah. I'm desperate to just go, yeah, but I know, you know.
I'm there.
Carried away.
Oh, I'm away.
I think Liverpool. I think Liverpool are going to win the league. There's no point getting carried away with it. Yeah. Not on camera. Not on camera.
Yeah, we know what that's it. And look, if there's people out there who think Liverpool are going to win the league, it's because Liverpool haven't lost a game this season and they're top of the league
by 8 points, 14 to City,
and they're 8 points ahead of the nearest.
And we're the best side in the world.
Yeah, and they're 14 points ahead of the best and most expensively assembled, but best Premier League team in history as well. You know, prior to this point in terms of what they've achieved and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, no one says it's done. No one thinks it's done, but
the only thing that stops it happening is like a massive run of injuries or something, and that can happen. So that's why you can't just, you know, bank it. Again, we spent. I think me and you spoke about this before, Ben. Is that it's almost it's a bit like now when your horse is winning the Grand National and it's just got to get to the end.
Yeah.
Because you know it's the best horse.
Yeah.
And there's one fence left to go, and it's by a few, you know, it's got there. And all those people behind you are just going, please fall over, please fall over. That's all. Or
there's a horse without a rider, which is our Dejan. What's this horse going to fucking do to bring mine down?
Yeah. This is going to be a manager. It's going to be a managerless team that comes up against us. Like,
that's where we're at now. Is that it should be, because even 8 points, if it was City behind us by 8 points, I'd be like, okay, because I still think they're really good and they can beat us at their place and that. So I think you do have to respect Leicester, because we have to play them.
I think the fact that Man City have to play Leicester before Leicester play us makes a big difference.
It's almost now you get to that game where City wins better for Liverpool, which is quite bizarre.
Insane. Absolutely insane.
And then
I still just take a draw, mate.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of them, is that I don't think you can't underestimate how good Leicester are and how good they've been, but there's something about me that just thinks, I don't think they can get 95 points. Like, I know they've won the league before, but they won it with 81, I think was it around there?
They won 86.
Yeah, something like that. I just, the way Liverpool are going now, they're in 100-point form. That's where we're at now. Whether they get to that, I don't know. Because
we're 101 over the last 38 games, aren't we?
And I just don't see anyone. I don't like. The only team I think could do that, it would be City.
But they've got to win. I think they've got to win. I think they can get a maximum of 98 now, which is obviously their tally from last season. So
and they would have to
every single game to get 98, and even then, I think we might get more. So,
but that's the thing, isn't it? Look, we at the moment we're in that territory where we know Liverpool historically, the historic Liverpool, the one that have broken our hearts consistently in the league over the last 30 years. You know that those Liverpools have done enough down the line to make us think, well, this could all.
It's not that Liverpool, though, is it?
No.
This Liverpool are deserved champions of Europe, got to the final twice, and are putting an unbelievable run together over the last 2 seasons.
It's not.
So you can forget everything that's gone before, because what we're seeing is a new Liverpool, a rebirth.
It's not cocky. It's not arrogant. I just don't feel nervous, and that's. And I would look, these could prove to be famous last words, but ultimately I can say whatever I want. It has no impact on the players playing on the pitch. I would rather be in a title race with Leicester than Manchester City. Of course you would. And it's the same way that I would rather have had Spurs in the Champions League final than Real Madrid or Barcelona in the final. I know we beat Barcelona in the semi, but I would rather. I don't know that we could have done that in the one game in the final because of all the things around them. It's mad to think that we could be in a position where this is done and dusted in handy fashion, but it's going to depend on what Leicester do, isn't it? You know, I think at the moment they're not going anywhere, and we saw it with their performance at the weekend. You know, Villa gave them a little go when they go back to 2-1, don't they? And then obviously Leicester just go and wipe the floor with them. So I think Leicester are going to be, that Leicester City game is going to be absolutely pivotal. And then, because if Leicester win that game, then the game against us on Boxing Day that's them like us going to the Etihad last season, you know, in January, and like, this is our opportunity, this is do or die, this is us in the title race or not in the title race. Whereas, you know, if Man City were to do Leicester before that, then there's just not as much riding on that game. Just quickly then, the games around the weekend, Duncan Ferguson going full Ultimate Warrior, Hulkamania, running wild on the touchline. I've said this a few places, but I love seeing stuff like that. As much as I dislike the Ev and I dislike Duncan Ferguson, because he just used to hate my childhood for being, you know, in that Everton side in the 90s. It's one of the things I like.
Fair play to the kid who jumped in his arms as well. Yeah. Fair play to him. He's like, I'm doing this. Yeah. He's got to catch me, because if he doesn't catch me, that's my life over. It's on camera. I'm getting ruined forever. I love it. I loved seeing it. Like, and it makes it even better, the fact that they hated it when Klopp was doing it. Yeah. And now they're absolutely creaming themselves. And I spoke to my brother about it, and he's like, We only hated it because we were fucking jealous, because we wanted to see a bit of fucking passion and a bit of fight in our ground, and that's what he gave them. He gave them a bit of fight and passion, and you know they're a fan base that just want that first and foremost. And Dunk said it perfectly before the game, didn't he?
I think it's amazing for him. What it also shows is like the impact a manager can have in that. More tackles than they've ever had. They ran more, they carried more. And I'll be honest, like I saw Seamus Coleman's interview. I watched the game and I watched a bit of the build to it, and it was like Seamus Coleman. I've never really played for a manager. I've played for myself and for the team. Like that changed, but that's obviously not what was happening there. Because why wasn't you all? Why
doesn't do Moyes' chance of getting the job back in your favours, that does it? When you the lad that he signed basically just admitted he hasn't been playing.
No, but I think what he means is
I know what he means.
Yeah, you know, you play your level should be your level regardless, but. You know, I also think is that it must be dead weird, like knowing that your manager could just knock you out.
Yeah.
Like if you don't run, I'm going to batter you. Like Duncan Ferguson.
I was chatting to the Toffees TV lads, and like saying they were like Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Where has that lad been? Because they were saying that's not him. How could a player have changed so much in just a few days? It's like, because you don't want to walk into Duncan Ferguson at the end and him go, why didn't you put that tackle in? Why didn't you close that lad down? Why didn't you? Because you're right, because you're scared. Not only they'll think you're a knobhead, which is the basics of it, did he kick you?
He seemed to understand what type of... Well, he does understand Everton. Yeah. He went fucking 4-4-2 for a start. I'm sure he'll have just had a baseball bat near him when he was doing his pre-match team talk, not mentioning the baseball bat, and everyone be like, shit, there's a fucking baseball bat there. Yeah. Fuck.
Yeah.
I
think they mentioned about him having Howard Kendall's watch on, but he's also got his knuckle duster on, he never said as well. Like,
underneath that wristband, was like... I was thinking...
That's nuts.
Like, as much as, you know, tactics and stuff, and we all laud it, there is something to be said, like, at times, footballers will down tools on a manager. Because there's no way that was... From watching Everton over that derby game, when they didn't lay a glove on Liverpool, like, they didn't win a 50-50, Andy Robertson was elbowing the lad in the face, and Trent's having a go at them, and they kind of just took it. Where with Chelsea, they booted them. If you have to boot them, we'll boot you. But they work hard, and that's the thing with Everton. Everton are never going to have the best footballers, because they're just not, because of the level of where they are and the finances or whatever. But the best Everton times that have beaten Liverpool and give us problems are ones who have just harried you. And I think Everton fans love it. You know, there was a bit where they'd done a bit of pressing and Chelsea kicked out for a throw or whatever. And the fans were absolutely...
That's what we're like as
well.
We're all the same in that way. That's why we love their counts. That's why we love Luis Suarez. It's why we love Andy Robertson, because they're the type of players that us as people from the city can get behind, because we all love that.
Until you're a team that's got like all the best players in the world or whatever, that's the base you should be asking, isn't it, Ben? You know, we've been saying for years. You're right. That's why those players like Dirk and that stuck out like a sore thumb, because we didn't have sides that did that. That's all Everton want. They just want a team that goes out there because they don't expect them to be the best team in the world anymore. They haven't had that for so long. So, but the thing is, they've got good players. We said this before, prior to the derby. If you can get an engine around that just runs through brick walls, then they'll find all of a sudden that the good players actually start to shine.
Yeah, and they could probably do worse than keep him in charge for the next month, particularly with this cup derby coming up, because if they want to win at Anfield, you know, the circumstances regarding that game, it's the end of a tough run for us. We're probably going to rotate because it's the cup and all that. And if Duncan Ferguson's Everton shows up at Anfield and they play that, I'm not saying, you know, that they're going to knock us off the park, but I think, you know, that it's going to be a real competitive game, and I think. You know, you see how the next couple... They've got some tough fixtures coming up. We see how that goes, but I think it's not the worst idea in the world to keep him around for a few weeks longer.
Well, he's now like the fourth club legend managing, isn't he? Like, you got Dunk, Lampard, Lundberg, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
It's brilliant. Love
it's fucking mad, isn't it? Like,
and none of them are good enough to make a team.
And when Stevie comes back and wins us the fucking league, they'll all be like, shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was the best out of all of them.
City United, just briefly then, absolutely glorious. I loved the fact that they just sucker punched City to death.
They were brilliant.
Amazing.
I couldn't believe what I was watching. They
Alex
were so
Ferguson
good.
Watching on in the stands.
Fred looked really good as well, didn't he? Like, genuinely looked really good.
Man United are one of those teams who, at the minute, are better against good teams.
Yeah, like us, aren't they, in the early days?
Yeah, because they want, like, again, early Klopp teams and that. They just want to counter-attack here. Yeah. They've got no ability to break teams down because they've got no creativity, as we mentioned before. But if they can sucker punch and draw you on, like James and Rashford and Martial,
even Jesse Lingard.
There's just pace to burn.
What would I go that far, Ben?
But he was good though. He was good.
It's from a City point of view, it was amazing how many times Kyle Walker was sprinting back towards his own goal, like last gasp. Something's wrong with City. They don't sustain attacks like they used to. When you play City, it used to be they would box you in, and they would like suffocate you. The goal would come, and it wouldn't be the best move they've done, but it would have been on the end of like 4 different chances.
Yeah.
And then they've scored.
Yeah.
It's too easy to get out.
There's a belief now in sides that are playing City that they can fucking win games.
And you can get out. Like I think their issue is that not replacing Company and losing Laporte is a big blow for them. But it's meant that they've had to put Fernandinho centre half, and he's done really well. Yeah. But I always felt when you were playing City that it was Fernandinho who kept you in. Like as you tried to clear it, he'd be the one
what Fabinho does for us.
Yeah, he'd be the one who pushes up and he boxes you in. And absolute worst case, if he thinks you're going to counter, he'd just chop you down. Yeah. And he'd take the yellow, or he'd get away with it because he'd have a laugh, and he'd always do it. Rodri's a really good player. He is very, very talented, but they are clearly missing.
But
they're not
in time, this is the thing. We spent half a season bedding Fabinho in.
Yeah.
They've thrown Rodri in from the off, and that's what they've done. They're now their best team, that team that's been bedded in, that he inherited, the spine of that side, with Company, with David Silva, Fernandinho, Aguero and all that. When you've got no Aguero, it means you've got to put Jesus in, who's fantastic with his goal return in the last few weeks. It's been great, but he's not Aguero. Rodri is really good, but he's not Fernandinho, and they both might go on to be the next ... But today they're not, which is that, and that's why Liverpool have just capitalised, and that's just in terms of the age, overall age of the squads. We're a team that's pairing, and they're in a transition period between moving on from the old.
That whole club just looks so frustrated for me at the moment, and it's typified by the moan at all the VAR decisions, because the penalty's a penalty, and that's VAR working brilliantly in the sense of he wipes him out and they give the penalty, and then they don't get one at the other end. They don't get the handball on Fred that can go either way. I don't think that is, but the whole thing. It just looks as if that they're aware of exactly what you're talking about at all times. It's just we're coming to the end of this squad, and we don't know what we're trying to sneak in another league title, and Liverpool are getting away, and everything's against us, and we've not won the Champions League yet, and just everything seems like it's boiling over. And when things like those VAR decisions happen, it just takes it to another level.
For me, the best coach to build a football side in world football is Pep Guardiola. But he can be his own worst enemy at times, because there's a petulance that's like he doesn't respect anyone else's style of football, and he doesn't think that anybody deserves to win against his side. And when teams do, that's what it comes out as. It comes out in him moaning about decisions and moaning about this, and like the whole world's against him, and it's like, it's not, mate. There are ways to beat your side, and we've seen you now for 2 years at your absolute best. We can now work out how to... And enough teams have beat you that we know that there is ways to beat you.
They don't deal with adversity very well. That's what we've learned. And to be honest, a lot of Pep Guardiola sides, I think he's an amazing manager. He's probably one of the best, certainly this era, one of the best ever. You make a list of top 10 managers, he's probably up near the top of it. But every one of his teams, they don't deal well with adversity. They don't like getting punched in the face because they don't really know what to do about it. And it was obvious what Man United's plan was. We're just going to counter-attack you. We trust that we're going to get out once or twice. And to be fair, they got out with Fred, like you said, which was bizarre. He was amazing. He was really good, and McTominay was really good as well. And it was a bit easy. Like, it was, Man United could have scored 5 on the counter. Like, genuinely could have just put them to bed, a bit like what we did. Just, it's easy to get the ball. That's the problem, is that you look at their defence, and I agree it's an issue. But their main issue at City is that they can't sustain their attacks. Yeah. They've always had a little bit of a glass jaw, because when we've exposed them off it. But this time it's everyone's doing it. Everyone can see it. If we just nick that ball away, get it up, we fancy our chance.
Well, just no Sane and no Aguero. That
and no Laporte,
2 players of that quality. But you can cope with not having a good defence if you're just going to outscore the opposition. Whereas if that starts to falter in any way, then you're lacking. The one thing I just thought with you, just to kind of wrap it up on that, and it's not necessarily related to the game, but obviously Guardiola did that speech at the Football Rights Association the other week. He walked up on stage and he talked about the Champions League as his trophy kind of thing, like this, and he really just clearly loves the European Cup, and it just went completely at odds with everything that he's been briefing their fans on for 2 seasons about how the Premier League's the most difficult, the Premier League's the one, blah, blah, blah. And I just wonder whether now we're at that point where we said this is what Liverpool's aim has got to be this season. You've got to burn City off so that at some point they go, right, our focus is no longer the Premier League. Maybe Pep Guardiola goes, right, we're putting all our eggs in the Champions League.
This is the fucking joke that he's had with everybody. His focus has been the Champions League. He's just convinced everybody that it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. It has absolutely been the Champions League, because why wouldn't it be? His big question mark over him was that he didn't win the Champions League with Bayern Munich when he came to Manchester City. Yeah. That was the big thing. He walked the fucking league, no problem. In Germany, he didn't win the Champions League, so his focus has always been the Champions League. When you've got the richest, best funded football side, the odds are you're going to win the domestic league that you're in.
But the focus on the Champions League stuff, that's not going to become relevant until April, even February, because they're going to draw Oxford in the round of 16 of the Champions League. So they're going to walk that. So there's going to be at least one round, and that's fine. So
you're telling me
onwards.
that he preferenced the Carabao and FA Cup last season over the fucking Champions League?
No,
you can't tell me that, because he fucking didn't.
It's what it is. They don't deal well with. They just haven't dealt well with adversity. You will come up against teams in a two-legged tie. You are not going to dominate 100. It's hard. That's why City, the two-legged nature of European Cup doesn't favour them in that. Yeah. It's easier for things to go wrong. Over 90 minutes, City can beat anyone. But over 180 minutes, at some point, they're going to probably score a goal, or you're going to get an injury, or something's going to happen. And they've just never. And Pep's Bayern were the same. They just did.
They can't fathom it out. They can't figure out why they are where they are, which is brilliant. And I'm enjoying every sweet, tasty moment of it.
For sure.
They need to stop whinging about company. It was their choice not to fucking replace him. And he rolls it, you've been rolling it out. City fans were missing company. He fucking told you he was leaving at the end of the fucking season, and you didn't replace him. Stop it, it's not an excuse.
Yeah.
It's your fucking bad management for not replacing him.
Yeah, absolutely. Lovely, innit? Long may it continue. So, yeah, thank you very much. That is the final words on Liverpool and on all the other teams who are kind of kicking the heels below us at the moment in the Premier League. Again, let's hope that carries on that way. We've got more coming for you this week. Make sure you head over to the redmentv.com to sign up. The final word show for the Salzburg game will be on there. So if you enjoyed this show and you want more of it, you want to continue the coverage for every Liverpool game, do head over to the redmentv.com and sign up there. Gentlemen, that's been my pleasure. Hope it's been for you as well. And we'll see you all very soon.